Hey, you two. Otto here. I'm here with Callie, and we are bringing you the breeding video. I apologize it's taken so long. We were on vacation for a week, and so we've returned, and we're trying to do what we can to get this done. We know that the big update, the mega update, is going to be going in shortly, and this is the state of breeding in Atlas before the mega update. So things are going to change. I know in the patch notes it said that everything was going to be breedable after the mega update, and I also read a line that said they would all be breedable except for the mythicals. And so I'm not sure if that means that there are now qualities of mounts. That is a suggestion I put on the forums, but we'll see. I think there's going to be a lot going in that mega update, and we'll see what we get after it drops. For now, this is how breeding currently is, and it'll give you a general foundation to understand. Here we are breeding two bears. You can see right here it's 58 degrees Fahrenheit. And so what we did is we put them in a very small, tight space, and we put them both on wandering. Okay, you just walk up, press E, go to behavior, and go to enable wandering. When they're both on wandering and the temperature is correct, you'll see the hearts popping. Okay, that means they're able to be bred. If they cannot be bred, they will have a different symbol up over top of them that will show you that, you know, they're not going to breed. Plus, you can look at them underneath and see where it says mating. 40.6% in climbing. You will not see that in a pair that is not breeding. Generally, the problem is temperature. It's always going to be temperature, assuming you have the genders right. One male, one female. That's the only way to breed. That combined with the proper temps. Okay, so the whole point in this here is just to get her to 100%. This is Gamma's the female, Samson's the male. Gamma's 112, Samson's 95. You should also know that we are on a private server, and I have expedited the timers. Everything else will be the same if you're on official, except the timers will be a lot slower.
Lot slower.
Yeah, like hours slower. You can pretty much, you know, if you have a weekday, you can do it, but pretty much you're going to kiss away an entire shift, a normal work shift of solid 8 hours plus, whatever it took before and whatever it takes after for you to be able to finish a breeding session. And you'll understand why once we get rolling here. So right now, I understand why it's that way. It's just, okay, see right now it says gestation. It was pretty much 12 minutes, and now it's counting down. That has been greatly expedited. Okay, normally it would be longer than that.
Usually I think it's about 4 hours on official, last I knew.
With bears.
With bears.
And it's important to say with bears is because each animal will be different. The way you go about it is going to be similar, but their timers and stuff will be different on official or even other private servers. It's going to come back to that private server settings. Okay, so now she's breaking out the walls. Just so that she can move them, because we don't even need them in there anymore. She's going to pull Gam out, and I'll grab Samson, because when the babies come out, we're going to have the babies in here. The babies will come in here close to the fires, close to the grills, so that they will be able to stay warm. You do not want the babies getting cold, because they will die.
Which typically for bears in temperate, you do not need grills. But if you're doing anything like horses or sheep or anything else and you're in temperate, you will need the grills if it's at night. During the day, you might want them off or else they will overheat.
So what's important is you pretty much can't have the cubs. See, she turned her around because that's where the cubs are going to pop right here. You pretty much can't have the babies born and then run off and go do something. Okay, you have to be there 24/7, every minute, every second to monitor them. Because if they start blinking they're too hot or they're too cold, you have to take care of that immediately. If you don't, they have a very small HP pool when they're first born. They will die.
Also, if you are doing especially something like horses where you have fires going ahead of time because you're in a colder environment, you know they're going to need it, make sure the mother is not like right beside the grills when she gives birth, because we've actually had a baby that landed on the grills, could not get off, and died. So make sure there's a little bit of space so the babies can actually go on the ground and not right on the heat source if you have the fires going.
Something else to watch out for is if you are in a multi-leveled building like we are, like right now we are approximately 8, 9, 10 levels up in the air, and they have babies and you can't figure out where in the world they went, go downstairs and look, because sometimes they flop through the floors.
Which I haven't seen that with bears yet because they are larger, but like the baby sheep were absolutely tiny, and they're the ones that fell through the floor. And I imagine anything like the rabbits or crows or anything like that that is equally as small could also easily fall through the floor.
Okay, so again, this is pre-mega update breeding of bears, and it works very similar to horses, crows, parrots, rabbits, pigs. It's all about get them together in a small pen, turn on their wandering. If the temperature's right, they will start mating. When the mating's done, you can open them up out of the pen, prepare the mother to give birth, and keep them by a heat or cold source depending on what you have going on, depending on where you're at when you're having the babies. Currently, we have a way to heat them up if they're cold, but if they're too hot, the only thing we can tell you is to get them on a ship and get them outside the island biome, out into the ocean area on the ship. Often will change the temperature and get ready to travel. You know, if they're too hot, you might have to go into even a tundra setting. We've seen that before. However, we'll warn you, it is very difficult to take care of them and be sailing the ship and keeping away from ships of the dam and keeping away from players in PvP, and also keeping them warm enough in the tundra. So, because if you go into a region like that, they can get too cold super fast, and then if you try to heat them up and you can't get enough heat, they can still die. And so it really does make things, you know, it's exponentially more difficult.
Which I haven't done much breeding in the tundra, but at least theoretically, the tundra would be easier to breed because you can just add campfires and grills to make it warmer. You don't usually have to worry about cooling anything down in the tundra because it's already cold.
Right.
But breeding in temperate, if you're breeding some of those animals that are more tundra oriented, yeah, you run into an issue when it's, you know, afternoon and it's typically reaching like mid 60s to 70s. That's usually when the cubs or, you know, the animals start having issues. If it's a tropical animal, usually you don't have issues breeding in temperate because they're fine during the day, and during night you just add fires. So it partly depends on what you're breeding.
But we have seen some tropical animals like the parrots during the standard 50, 60 degree weather in temperate that was not hot enough for them to breed. They wanted hotter.
Which I think parrots actually you have to breed in the tropics, because I believe if you're in temperate it will actually say undesirable biome. Like you literally cannot breed them in the temperate, even with like 10 grills. It's just you have to be in a tropical region. Crows you can actually breed in the temperate, but you do have to have a lot of grills because they require a lot of heat.
So there you go. If you see that it says undesirable biome, then you're probably in the wrong temperature zone. You're going to have to change zones. And there is a list of animals that are tropical. There's a list that are more tundra temperate. Generally, that's your only two. They're either hot or cold. Okay, so she's got another 5 minutes or so. Her gestation is climbing, and you never know how many they're going to have. Sometimes they have one or two. You know, you just don't know. These are bears, and so what kind of food do they need, Kyrie?
The best one is animal meat. You can use berries, but the preference is meat, raw meat.
Okay, there you go. So they're going to want raw meat. We realize they're bears and they generally are herbivores, but in Atlas, they want to eat meat.
Which
So,
that was actually a newer change because when we like first started breeding, they didn't take meat. They only took like berries. I don't know if they took any greens or not. We only ever used berries, but they did not take meat. But within the last, I'm going to say month or so, they updated it to where they actually do take meat.
and at what age can they start feeding from a trough instead of you constantly putting food into their inventories?
I believe it is when they reach a juvenile age.
Okay. So when you first start with the babies, guys and gals, you have to enter their inventory. As soon as the babies come out, this is what we do. The first thing we do is we shut off wandering. The next thing we do is immediately put food into their inventory. And we just keep stockpiling the food. Okay, and as they get older and older and older, and they go from being very small babies to juvenile, once they hit juvenile, you no longer have to pack food in their inventories. They will now eat from a trough if you have one local. We do have troughs here local. As you can see above Gamma here, right above the little pink hearts there, you can see that there's a little trough. She's eating from a trough right now because we have several troughs around this building. But once they hit juvenile, they will start eating from the trough. Before juvenile age, you have to be ultra careful. You really need to be careful all the way through because many times, I can't even tell you how many times we have turned our back and came back and then boom, baby's dead. We just had this happen to us right before we went on vacation. We were like, oh, everything's fine. It's a juvenile. It's eating from the trough. All the temperature's good, blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, we left and we set a timer for when the baby needed care. You'll understand care in a little while after we get rolling. And the temperature changed just a couple degrees. We didn't catch it. And the baby was too cold and boom, died.
Actually, he was too hot.
Too hot. Okay. So the temperature changed and we weren't right there to see it. And it died. And this was already a juvenile bear. It was already almost fully an adult age, and it still died. So, like, I'm serious when I tell you, you cannot leave these babies. Like, you have to be on top of them 24/7. And so, clear your Saturday, clear your Sunday. If you have a weekday off during the week and you're going to do it, clear it, because that's how long it takes to do this. And I understand why Atlas does that. It really prevents people spamming mass amounts of tames. I will, however, say that it is a ton of work. And so, if you go into it, and for those of you out there that are like buying up tames and stuff like that, understand that breeding and taming is a lot of work. And someone did not, and that's only one cub or one horse or pony or one parrot or whatever it is you're breeding. If that tame is a multi-generation, that could actually have taken 20, 30, 40 plus hours depending on how many generations it was.
Other thing to note, as well as they'll see shortly, is the males you can repeatedly breed like constantly. The females, once you breed them once, you have a timer that is sometimes like 30 plus hours before you can breed them again. That is real world hours that have to pass. So you can't just breed them, pop out a baby, and then be like 20 minutes later, okay, I'm going to breed them again. Females don't work that way. So if you're going to be breeding multiple cubs, you have to have multiple females. And if you want them on a certain level, you have to have multiple females all at that level to even be able to breed multiple times a day.
Okay, so here I'm going to show you one that we bred before, and you can see her timer right there in the bottom. It says ready to mate in 19 hours 47 minutes. And so there you go. There's a real world timer counting down before she can be bred again. And guys, I do apologize for the slight echo. Callie and I are in the same room, and when I talk, her mic is slightly picking me up. We've tried to minimize it, but I can tell it's still occasionally picking me up. We're going to have to fix that for the future because that's not going to work.
There's like 15 seconds left, so...
I'm coming, but I don't have food or anything on me.
I got some.
Okay. I can help shut off wandering if there's more than one. We don't know what it's going to be. Okay, here we go. Okay, there's one baby. Wandering's off. Go ahead and put food in them.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, now I'm going to grab Mama and move her.
The other thing I do is I always put them on passive. That way, like even if you're inside, if there's something like right on the outside, you know, they can sometimes try to attack that. Or, you know, things will glitch through walls. And so I just always put them on passive. That way they're not running around trying to, like, attack something.
Okay, so I just showed you guys where the passive is at. And you can see here, Callie's putting meat in the bear's inventory. You can look at his stats here. And you can also see we just bred a 112 and a 95. And that baby came out 73. Now 73 plus 35, because that's currently how many levels you can have on official. All this is per official, except for the timers. Okay, the timers have been expedited for this video so that we're not sitting here making a multi-hour video to just show you what breeding's like. So on official, the max you can get is 35 levels. So 73 plus 35 is 108. Notice, 108 doesn't even touch the level of the mother. The mother is 4 levels higher than that, but notice 108 is higher than the father. And so what you're going to find is there is a range of levels you will get between the mother and the father. What we recommend is try to get the mother and father to close to the same level as possible. That will give you the best odds of getting the highest level baby you can get. Also, the way the baby looks is a direct result of the combination of coloring options. Okay, it's possible to get mama or daddy, or in between them, okay? But notice mama and daddy are very similar. Okay, daddy's got a darker coat with the brown top and actually it's like a orangish brown top and a brown under his throat. Mama, however, has got the same top, which is the orangish top on her coat. Same dark coat, but she's also got a light brown on her stomach right there, under her mouth and her chest there. But we go over and look at baby here. Baby's got the same dark coat, but notice he got the dark brown coloring underneath the snout and the neck and the chest like daddy did. Okay, but his top coloring is the same as both of them. So what I'm saying is if you're pairing up, like, I'll go out here and show you some of these lions. Okay, right here. Okay, here we have a flesh-colored lion that is black. She has a black across her head and across her back. If you take this lion and this lion right here, okay, this is a white lion with the light brown on the neck and the black across the back, you are not going to get black as a primary color on the coat. Okay, this is what we have seen across many births. However, again, this is subject to change in the mega patch because they could change. They could make it all random. But what we have seen so far is that you're going to get a combination of colors between the mother and the father. You're not going to get some random color out of nowhere that neither one of them had.
Now, I have seen some bears when we were doing like a gazillion of them in one day. Some of the colors surprised me, but even then the colors were in the parents. I think part of what it was is like the stripes of one of the parents, I think was like a silver or a gray, and that became like one of the main body colors on the bears, and so they looked radically different. However, that is not the norm. So you can get some what seems like a drastic color variation, sometimes just because of where the colors are located, but yeah, typically the colors tend to favor one of the parents, and if the parents are very similar, you're probably going to get a baby that looks pretty much just like them.
Yeah, like this little guy here. He looks very similar. He pretty much is the spitting image of daddy over there. His coloring and everything is just the same as daddy. So what this means here is the reason she keeps feeding him is because his ability, when you first start, they can only hold so much food. And if you keep building, putting more and more food in here, but at first they can't hold that much. But as he keeps maturing, he can hold a little more and a little more and a little more. Now what it's doing is it's raising his health. Okay, and you can see his numbers here. Okay, he got a good melee damage from base. He's got a decent weight for base. He's got decent torp. His food's good. His health is good. Actually, I feel like for 73, his health's a little low.
Yeah, it is.
So it looks like his health took a hit. versus some others. Some others we've seen, 1,000 or more health or whatever. It just depends on what their stats are. But what's most important here, you can click Ancestor. You can see this is the ancestry line. This is some of the original ones we bred like forever ago. Here you can see this is Gamma and Samson, and they put out Baby Bear. Okay, this is Mama's lineup. This is Daddy's lineup. So you can see Daddy has been through a couple generations. Mama was through one generation, and then here we are into Baby's gen. What's important though is when you're watching is right now the temperature is 56 degrees Fahrenheit. That is really, really good temperature for the bears. Every animal you breed is going to be different, but for the bears that temperature is good. You notice we're not seeing any symbol appear above him by his name. We're not seeing a little island, and we're pretty much not seeing the hot symbol or the cold symbol. I would show you what they are, but they're not coming up, and so we can't show you what it looks like. But pay attention, because if you see a symbol up here above the baby's back, then that symbol is telling you it's either too hot or too cold. The too hot looks like a little desert island.
Yeah, it's like a little palm tree.
Yeah.
That looks like it's in the desert.
Do you remember what the too cold looks like? I haven't seen that in a long time.
It looks kind of like the tip of an iceberg.
Okay.
It's kind of like just a little white triangle that looks like it's icy.
Okay, there you go. So one tells you it's cold, one tells you it's hot. The other thing that's important right now is we are waiting for that wants care. Now what that means is that wants care is what directly goes into the imprint. And the imprint is super, 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 super important. I can't put enough stress on that, okay? If you are not getting solid imprints on your babies, you are messing up the breeding process. The imprint is what gives the baby, when it reaches full maturity, based off the percentage of the imprint, which is going to be from 0% to 100%, that is what gives the babies its bonus stats. And trust me when I tell you the difference between 20% imprinted or 50% imprinted or 80% imprinted or 100% imprinted, they are big, big differences. And so you're going to get the best prime breed out of this baby right here if he gets 100% imprint. That's what you're shooting for. And so what this timer means is here in another 22 minutes and 30 seconds, he is going to want either a walk or a hug to cuddle. Once you start the walk, okay, which is pretty much you whistle on him, you have him follow you, you run over here somewhere, he'll start following you. Once he walks a few steps, you will see an imprint percentage appear above him. The first time I think it's like 2%. Okay, so it's very small. Or he wants to cuddle, in which case you just click E on him, you cuddle with him, and boom, you'll see the yellow lettering up here above him. You'll see it when we do it. That pops up and says, boom, imprinted, 2%. Now, last time we did this, I think it was the first time was 2%. I think the second time was 11%. Third time, fourth time, and on and on and on. They were all 11%. So that just keeps compiling right here on this imprint number here where it says 0%. Okay, now when he hits 100% maturity, wherever that imprint percentage is at is what you get. If you only got him to, let's say, 47% because you are busy doing all kinds of other stuff and you weren't taking advantage of all the time, because keep in mind, he's maturing this whole time. Okay, so if you waste a few minutes here and a few minutes there, you are literally losing time off of his 30-second imprint timers. That, like I'll give you an example. Let's say that by the time this guy here hits 100% maturation, the wants care went through 12 times. Okay? Well, if you imprinted all of them, let's say that 12 was 100%. But let's say you had to run to the store, you had to go do something with the kids, or you had to go do something with the neighbors, or someone showed up unexpectedly to visit and you went to go hang with them or whatever. First off, you broke the first rule, never leave the baby. Second off, while that timer was sitting there counting down, let's say it expires and hits 0. Guess what? The next timer doesn't start until you give the baby the imprint. And so you could literally blow 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and then you come back and you are totally lucky the baby didn't die because the temperatures were good, but he's still sitting there on the very first imprint. And so he never got imprinted all that time. And so your imprint could come up very poor. Okay, and so that's how you get sloppy with the imprinting. You're pretty much not jumping on the imprint care the moment it comes up. You literally want to get the imprint done inside of probably, I'd say 30 to 60 seconds. Okay, that's max. You want to get it as soon as it drops. And what we usually do is the moment it comes up, we'll imprint, and then we'll set a timer. We'll set like a 29-minute timer. And then we know in 29 minutes we need to be right there on that baby. And it's kind of like a, hey, pay attention, the cub or whatever is going to need care.
And to be honest, I'm not actually sure what these timers are in official now, or what it's going to be after the patch.
Correct.
Because previously, what it was is once the baby was born, there was a wants care in like 8 hours. And now what it is it wants care in a shorter period, and then like you imprint a couple percent, and then it wants care again in a certain amount of time. See, previously what it was is, yeah, after that 8 hours ran out, you imprinted like 100% all at once. And so I'm not sure what those timers are at now, just because I haven't been breeding in official, partly because it is so much harder because of trying to get things the right temperature, as well as it's all going to be wiped shortly anyway.
So again, I'd already said it 2 other times at least, that these timers may not be the exact same timer as on official. I have expedited the timer in the server settings. So it might be 30 minutes between imprinting times. It might be 2 hours. I don't know. But I will tell you, I have radically increased decreased the gestation period and the maturation. Okay, he's maturing very quickly. And the gestation with the mother and stuff all this was expedited for the video. So what we want you to get out of this is the way you go about doing it is the same, but the timers will be different. So just follow your timers and do it at the right time.
Though I do know previously, even with like expedited maturity and stuff, the timer was still the same. So it still was, wants care in 8 hours, even though, they matured, at like 5 times the rate. And so there's a very good possibility that in official the timer is similar. But like you said, it could be way different too. I honestly don't know.
All you have to do is pay attention to the timers. So we have another 17 minutes. And he's matured. It's been very close to 13 minutes, and he's matured almost 10%. So right there, you can already do the math. You're going to have an idea of how long it's going to take for this little guy to hit full maturation.
And I think juvenile comes at around 10%ish, so he should be hitting juvenile shortly.
Okay, so we'll hang out here on him and see. Excuse me. See what happens to him. And when he hits juvenile, he gets bigger. He's like those little rubber things you used to put in the water and they would expand in water. This little guy expands with food. Food and time. Okay, there it is. He just hit juvenile bear. So we're gonna say he hit 10% at 14 minutes. It was a bit shorter than that, but we're just gonna say for the simplicity it was 14 minutes.
And notice the trough also appeared above his head. So now he's probably just going to be eating from the trough, and so adding food to him is probably not going to mean a whole lot.
Right, so right now you don't have to put food on him. All you have to do is make sure he doesn't get too hot or too cold. And the reality is if you pay attention to the temperature, you can be anywhere. You don't even have to be with the bear. Like I could go outside and mess with the ships or whatever and just keep checking the temp. And as long as the temp is relatively the same, the baby's fine. Because there's food, there's a lot of food in the trough, and he's not going anywhere because he's on passive and he's wandering shut off. And so it's what you got to watch for is where we screwed up last time, like a week ago, the temperature changed and we didn't notice it. And that's how it died.
And also with bears, the main thing you have to worry about for temperature is that it gets too hot. Too cold is not usually an issue, at least if you're in temperate. In tundra, they can get too cold. And that's where you actually have to know, depending on where you're at and what you're breeding, you have to know the hottest they can take and the lowest they can take. Because that you can't just watch for one end or the other depending on what you're breeding and where you're at. And if you are breeding like horses, it is possible, like even if you are in a colder climate, like if you have a bunch of fires running, it can actually get too hot, especially if it's during the day and it starts warming up. And so it is possible with too many fires to overheat things. And so you gotta make sure that even if, say, like the temperature outside is still cold, if you have a bunch of fires running inside, it could end up being too hot next to all those fires.
So again, that just reinforces you have to be right there on top of the baby the whole time. If it gets too hot, you have to adjust things. If it gets too cold, you have to try to adjust things. And I would not recommend, just for this video, do not try to mate or breed bears in the tropics.
No.
Okay, they will like insta die. Okay, they will not make it. So you have to be in temperate. Allows you to do it pretty chill usually, unless the weather's kind of wonky. Tundra, you're gonna want some grills and heaters and stuff by them.
Usually the bears work in temperate, except during like middle of the day. Once it reaches like noon, 1 o'clock, when the day is at its hottest, it's pretty much always bears going to be overheating. And so if you are breeding bears in the temperate, you pretty much have to be ready to take them on a boat out into the ocean, because they will probably get too hot. And depending on like how hot it gets that day, they could easily die by the time it reaches night.
I think I'd seen a patch a while back that said that babies no longer are affected by cold waves and heat waves. However, that does not mean that if it hits like 80 degrees Fahrenheit or even 70 or 75 degrees Fahrenheit in temperate, that is not too hot for the baby. That could very well be too hot for the baby.
Once it reaches about 65, it is too hot for a baby bear, and you will get that symbol above them that they are too hot, and they will start losing health. Now, if they are, say, like a juvenile or, an older bear that they have, a couple hundred HP, you have a little bit more time in which to get them out of there. If they are like a baby and they were born like middle of the day, there's a good chance they're not going to make it, just because they don't move very fast. And so if you don't have them born like on the ship, you're not going to be able to get them in a cooler area by the time that their like 10 HP decreases. And so if when you are breeding, you also have to take into consideration the timers for when you're breeding and the time of day it's going to be, depending on which climate you're in. Because if you have like a bear or one like wolves or breeder bull, I assume they're going to be the same because they're more of a tundra animal. If the babies are born like in the heat of the day in a like a temperate or a tropical climate, they're probably going to be dead very quickly, just because it's automatically too hot. Unless they put in a way for you to cool them down, inside the building, which I'm not sure what they would implement, but that's kind of where it's at right now.
And also keep in mind that because on official, the days are very quick. Okay, I don't know exactly what they're at. I just know that it seemed like the days were so super fast, the nights were super fast. It seemed like you were constantly revolving day, night, day, night, day, night. It was like 20, 30 minutes, or maybe even 40 at the absolute most, but it just seemed like they were going so fast. On our server, our days and nights are 2 hours each. And so you can actually get through the majority of an entire breeding before the next day comes in. Okay, and so even if you start at like maybe 5 in the afternoon, okay, you can still, the odds are the cub or the baby horse or whatever we're breeding will be at full maturity before the next afternoon prime time hits, where you have the most heat. But on official, it's not like that. On official, you could go through a few days, several days in fact, before the baby hits full maturity. And so odds are you're going to go through several prime time heat times during the day, no matter what zone you're in. And so take that into account. If you are in temperate, you're probably going to want to do this on a boat, so that you can get them out of the island biome and try to jump into another zone that is cooler for them. Because I'm going to tell you, like, we had lots of cubs born on official, and pretty much they all died. Because of the temperature was just too much in temperate. During the evening and the morning it was okay, and during the night it was generally okay. But prime time heat every single time would absolutely wreck them. And they would either have enough health to get through it, which we've seen a few times, but then by the time the next day came, the bear hadn't regenerated enough health left, and then the next day's prime time the baby would die because it already lost so much health from the previous day. And so it's just a huge pain.
I don't think we had any bears survive on official because of doing it like in temperate whenever the day came around, they always just lost too much health. In tundra it probably would have been different. Now breeding on official, if you are in temperate, or I'm not sure about tropical, I haven't really done tropical. Things like horses, sheep, cows, that kind of thing, those will probably be fine because usually those want a warmer climate. The only ones you're going to run into an issue with are those that want a colder climate. The bears, wolves, stuff like that. Pretty much everything else I assume you would be fine in temperate. Tropical, I probably wouldn't do a bunch of breeding in tropical just because I think those heat stroke days is probably going to kill about everything, even if they are a tropical animal. Now, I guess I shouldn't say all of them. I believe parrots and I'm not sure, maybe seagulls, a couple of the birds you can only breed in tropical, so they might be okay. But pretty much anything else, again, I don't know because I haven't experimented with them all, but I have a feeling tropical will be too warm for pretty much everything else other than birds.
And we don't know what's going to happen after the mega patch, because like right now we can go into the tundra and we can come across lions and stuff that are in the tundra. And they will even be white, okay, like they were born there. But because we can't currently breed them, we don't know if you're going to be able to breed them in those biomes, even though you can find them there. Okay, something was always a problem for us is how come we are able to find bears all over in the temperate, but you can't actually breed bears in the temperate, because they're always dying. The moment it just gets a hair too hot, the babies die. And so the brain teaser is, why are there so many all over the place in that biome, yet you cannot breed them there? Okay, so I'm following logic, not really the game mechanics. I'm saying in the world that they've created, if they're all over the place, why are they not able to be bred there? And so there's a disconnect there. And so what I'm saying is, don't assume because you found it in that island's biome that it can be bred there. Okay, you're going to have to pay attention to the minimum temperature they can handle before they get cold, and the maximum temperature they can handle before they get too hot. And then you're going to have to get that animal into the proper biome in order to breed them. And like PvE, official probably won't be that much of a big deal because you just have to go to that biome. PvP, we all know, is going to be a totally different issue because you're going to have to be fighting tooth and nail out there to go some places, because in a lot of circles, just showing up, if they don't know you, you're pretty much open for attack. And so that makes taking care of them even harder. Okay, so just because you have this phenomenal place down in the tropics, it doesn't mean that is the prime place for you to be when you're trying to breed various animals. You may need to get yourself into the temperate or even into the tundra in order to breed them successfully. And so I hope you have either allies there that can help you, or you can trade with people. Okay, maybe breeding is not your thing, and you're going to do all of your animal collecting by trading, wheeling and dealing with people. That is an option. But just something else to consider when you're out there setting down bases and when you're allying with people, and when you are even picking what kind of biome you want to put your main base, because these are all things you're going to have to take into account. Okay, so we have 5 more minutes, and this little fella here will be he'll want imprinted. Now, we're only going to imprint once for the sake of this video, just so you guys can see what it's like. But just understand that once you imprint, not until after you imprint. The moment you imprint, you're going to get another 30-minute timer. But if you blow 30 minutes because you were busy doing something else, you just lost an entire imprint on that animal before it hits full maturity. Something else to remember and to consider. Right now, he's at 18.3% maturity. I will guarantee you, okay, last time I looked on official, this amount of time that has gone by, which is approximately 25.5 minutes, okay, he would not be at 18.5% maturity. Okay, he would be down in the single digits still, okay? So I believe last I looked on official, it took hours and hours and hours to hit full maturity. Okay, so this, again, remember, this is expedited. All these numbers are going quicker. Okay, there's very good likelihood that they will be going a whole lot slower on official. And so granted, you will have a lot more opportunities to possibly imprint, but you also have a greater opportunity to screw up the imprint, because if you're not there every 30 minutes, then you just missed an opportunity to get him. Let's say, for example, it took 8 imprints total, or 16 imprints, let's say 8 hours. That's 30 minutes times 8. And so that is, you're going to be able to imprint 2 times every hour. But if you're off doing something else, or you're distracted and you can't get that imprint in fast enough, it may mess up your final amount of imprint, the total you have. Okay, so instead of getting 100% imprint, maybe you only end up with 73% imprint. Remember that imprint quality directly affects that baby's bonus stats, okay, how strong they are. And so you are going to have to, and I can't stress this enough, because some of you are going to be out there and you're going to spend loads of time breeding, and you're going to screw up the imprint, and you're going to be ticked because you weren't there to take care of them in the moment they needed that care. So we've seen the difference. We've played with the imprint values, and we've seen huge differences in bonus stat values, okay, between low amount of imprint to mid amount of imprint to all the way up to 100% imprint. And trust me when I tell you, you're going to want the 100% imprint, or as close as you possibly can to get to that.
Also, if you're in an org and there's lots of people and stuff, I believe whoever is the first one to imprint,
yes,
when it is first born, they are the only one that can imprint. Just
That's
some
right.
other random person in the org can't come in and be like, oh, it's time to imprint and do it. It has to be the person that first imprinted.
That's right. So remember, when the baby first came out of the mother, the very first person that clicked them was the imprinter. Even if you didn't give them the first care, it didn't matter. You were the first human that they latched to. That's the imprint. Okay, that's the guy person that has to imprint them. So if Bobby Joe from down the beach comes over and you guys are talking about business, and there you are breeding, and you're like, oh, hang on a moment, and you slip over to the forge to grab, maybe a rifle or something, and you come back and give it to her, and it only took 30 seconds, and Bobby Joe's standing there, and that baby pops out in that moment, and she goes over and checks it out. Boom. Bobby Joe now has to stand there and help you breed that animal for the next 8 hours, because that is the one that was imprinted. Okay, so be aware of that. All right, we're almost there.
I know, at least this time it to me it's more encouraging when you only see like a half-hour timer versus like that daunting 8-hour timer like all at once. And even then, the way it was set up previously, like there was the 8-hour timer, but they did not reach full maturity. And so you had, I think for bears it was, I think roughly another 4 hours before they actually reached full maturity. So you had to care for them for like 12 hours, monitoring temperature and everything, or else they could easily die. Even though you could imprint, after the 8, they still needed more care. And I think the horses were actually longer than the bears. And so they took, I think, closer to I'm going to say 14 plus hours just to get a, from And I think that was actually from like birth. That wasn't even like the several hours of gestation. So by the time you put like gestation, which I think for horses was about 6 hours, plus the 8 hours of care, you're up to 14, plus the other, I'm going to say, I think maybe 5 to 6 hours after they reach maturity. Like that's 20 hours for, over 20 hours for one baby horse. That's a lot.
Okay, see the binky blinking above the bear? That's the I want care. Okay, now Callie's got to care for him. What's he want, Callie?
He wanted a cuddle.
Okay, so she cuddled with him. You see the 25% went above his head? Now look. There it is, 25%. Again, I have changed these values. And so there's a good chance this imprinting could be higher than it is unofficial. Okay, so don't look at the numbers so much as you are the process. Look at the process. This is what it looks like to breed these guys, okay? Now, by this, okay, he's only going to have to be imprinted 3 more times. Okay, and so a total of 4 times, that's 2 hours. To me, that is far more reasonable. Okay, it's still a bit of a work. I mean, without a doubt, 2 hours sitting here every 30 minutes taking care of this little guy, it's work. But that is far, far better than 8, 12, 14, 16 plus hours trying to take care of a baby when, let's be realistic, guys, the first person, you see how it says in that baby's name, it says imprinted by Callie Cruikshank? That means no one else can do it. She has to stay here. And if you are asking someone to sit there at the computer for 8, 10, 12 plus hours taking care of the baby, that's unrealistic. That is radically hardcore. Okay, most of us have things we have to do beyond the day that is never going to happen. Okay, if we can stop in and play the game for 2, 3, maybe 4 hours, that's really good. Okay, because if you go beyond that, that is in the realm of hardcore. That is in the realm of you set your entire day aside to do this. And that's not for most people. Okay, and so again, this is pointed more at the grape shop devs, because you've got to create a game that is going to cater to a wider audience if you want the community to get bigger and to draw people in. If everything you create is created at such a hardcore level, you're going to have a very small niche community, because that is what the hardcore player base is. It's a small niche community for each game. Okay, so that was the example. That's how it worked. You watched us breed them here in the taming pen here that we created. We kind of jammed them in together, and then we turned on their wandering. They bred. The gestation period went by, and the baby popped out. The moment the baby popped out, Callie was the first one to grab him, and so she imprinted on him the moment she touched him. You can see that by the imprint name. Then we gave him food until he hit 10%. At 10%, he was able to feed from the trough. The trough was already filled with food. It's feeding all the other animals in the building. So this little guy was just feeding out of there. He's taken care of from there on forward with food. However, the timer appeared. Now you had to be there for the timer in order to imprint to increase the quality. And here again you can see the imprint quality. He's got 25%. Now this will go up and up and up and up and up every time she imprints. Now, I wish for the sake of this video we could go all the way through it, but I'm not going to give you over a 2-hour video on breeding. You're just going to have to trust us that when we tell you, if you mess up the imprint, you're going to mess up their bonus stats. And so we strongly recommend, if you are serious about breeding high-quality tames, get the imprints as close to 100% as you can get. And if you can, it's possible to, like now, this guy's 73. We can get him maxed out to 108. Okay, and we can take this 108, and we actually have one downstairs. Her name's Draconia, and she's 109. So we could take him and Draconia and mate those two together, and there's a good chance that the baby that would come out would probably be like level 80 to 90 somewhere. And so what I'm saying is you can level up the max level of your tames through generations of breeding. Okay, so if your tamer for your org out there is good, or your tamers, if you have multiples, then you can get these guys higher and higher and higher and higher. And it doesn't even matter if the first 2 tames you started with were level 1. Okay? At level 1, 35 levels onto that is 36. They're each level 36. You have a baby that's born probably low 20s, maybe even high teens, and you just rinse, repeat the cycle. And so what I'm showing you is you can get your tame levels, your mounts, because really that's what a lot of these guys are. They're mounts, they're supports on your shoulders, they're resource gatherers. You know, they're war mounts, they're adventuring mounts, they're all kinds of functionality for the tames. And so you can get them better and better and better and better just by breeding multiple generations and leveling them up. Breed them, get them to max level, breed them. That baby, get it to max level, breed it. Every generation will be higher and higher and higher and higher level. And what we've seen here was if we got above like level 120, maybe it was 130, somewhere in there, they would stop gaining levels. When the babies were born, they were whatever level they were is what they would stay. They would no longer level up. I don't know what it is unofficial. Okay, I know I've seen mounts in the low 100s, so you can still get up that far. But what I'm showing you is at somewhere point you're going to hit a wall where the babies are no longer going to get higher. And that is not actually desirable, because when the baby's born, whatever stats he has, along with the 100% imprint, okay, assumed 100% imprint, those are the stats he gets his entire life, no matter how many levels he gets. Okay, well, actually he can't level anymore, so if he's born at, like, say, level 135, boom, he's stuck. He's only ever going to be 135, and whatever stats they have, that's all they're going to get. It's actually better to mate two parents that are a little bit lower in level, so that when the baby comes out, maybe he's like level 115. Well, 115 and 35 is 140 by the time he's max leveled, okay, by the time he gets those 35 levels. That's more desirable at 140, and you were given 35 levels to put his stats wherever you wanted, versus one that was born at level 135 and you couldn't touch any of the stats because he would no longer gain levels. And so just keep that in mind. Okay, this is something we're going to have to watch for after the mega patch. I believe there's probably going to be a lot of changes. We're going to be relearning this. We'll probably put out another breeding video. We'll try to bring as much to you guys as we can. Callie and I have quite a bit in the works that we're working on. We want to bring you a lot of cool, fun content between the videos and even some live streams of various action. We are trying to get onto the PvP server in an official capacity. I was on it this last season. However, I did not show you the content I was doing on there because and I don't know if it might be the same way this next season. See, there's a problem. There's a problem. The moment you start showing people where you're at, they know how to target you. So all the trolls and all the haters out there can target you and grief you, and they can become a huge problem. So we need a way that we're able to protect where we're at. And if we can figure out something where we can show you some great content without giving away our locations and stuff, then we'll try to do that. And that's not to hurt those that are not here for ill intent, but that is to keep information away from those that are here for ill intent. You got anything else you want to add to this, Callie, before we close this up? And
do we want to show them the stats with a full imprint?
I did want to show them the stats with a full imprint, but I think this is what we'll do, guys. We are going to finish this cub, and his stats at full imprint. Look right now. Look right now. We will snap a shot of his final stats, okay? And I will blow it up, and it will be the thumbnail for this video, okay? And I'll blow it up so it's only this little square right here of his stats. And that is what I will show you, okay? So right now you're going to compare these stats that you're seeing right now with the final imprint stats, okay? And that'll be the thumbnail. You're going to have to put it on a screen that you can zoom in, or maybe even, you know, start your video if maybe you're on a smartphone or something. Start the video, pause it. Actually, just get the thumbnail up on the screen on the smartphone, snap a screenshot, go to it, blow it up, see if you can get it that way. Or go watch it on a big screen TV or a computer with a big screen. That way you're able to see the stats on the thumbnail. That's what we'll do so that you guys can see what the final stats were. Anything else, Callie?
Nothing's coming to mind right now. I think that was at least all of the main points.
Okay, guys. Just one last final shout out, I guess. If any of you have any questions on the breeding of what we've done here, or maybe questions on any other animal that can be bred, okay, because we've pretty much messed with all of them. Our castle here houses almost every animal that can be bred. And actually every animal that can be bred is in the castle right now, but we have all the others too. And in this module that we're playing in, we actually have a mod where we can breed all of them, even the ones you normally can't. However, it's still based on the current system that is already working on the official atlas. And so If you have any other questions about breeding, maybe there's something you don't understand, the temperatures, how to heat them up, how to get them bred so that they'll have the babies, whatever questions, or any questions on colors. We have pretty much every lion that you can get out there because we were testing a lot with colors.
Look at this. See, that is a symbol for too hot.
Okay,
now
you see that?
He's going to be losing health.
There it is. That's the symbol for too hot. Now you got to look right in the middle of the screen. See the little palm tree? Now notice what temp it is. It's only 69. Okay, it's only 69. And he's too hot. Okay, 69 is just too hot for this little guy. And it should be. He's still a young cub. So, what do we got here? Alright. She didn't mess with anything else. She just changed the time of day so it would get hotter. So that she could show you that.
I didn't change it, but I'm actually going to change it back to night so they can see, like, when it goes off.
But look at his health, though. Oh, wait a minute. Did he get high enough maturity? Oh, no, there it goes. Notice his health is going down. 65, 64, 63, 62.
And so that's where, like, if you don't catch it right away, like, within, a few minutes, they will be very beat up, if not dead. And that's all depending on what stage they're at. If it starts getting overheated before they're, like, juvenile, then they're only going to have, I'm not sure how much HP. I'm going to ballpark, they could be even in the 50s. And that's going to tick down, within, I'm going to say, probably a minute or two. And so if you don't catch it, like, right away, they're going to be dead if they're, like, very low HP. Because he's going down quickly. And
he's already lost more than 20 health total.
Yep. And so, you have to be on top of it very quickly because once it gets too hot or too cold, like, they tick down very quickly.
See, and it's only 70F. I believe the hotter it gets, the more extreme it gets for them. Just like us as players, the harder it gets on them, the more burden the temperature is and the faster they'll die. Okay, so right now, he's only a little bit higher than their normal allowable temperature. But right there, you got to see at 69, he was already too hot. And if it was 70 or 80 or 90, maybe we're talking tropic weather or something, right? Or just a really hot day. Not a heat wave, because heat waves don't count anymore. But if it was just a really hot day, he would die a lot faster. And pay attention, because look at him. Look at him right now. You see that little red spot in his fur right there in the middle? Right by the care in the word there? That's blood. Okay, he is showing you that he is taking damage and he's getting jacked up, okay? That's what that means. Over here, he's got a couple red spots. That is bad. That's because he's taking wounds right now. And so you got to watch for that too. Like, you can see him, and see he's already lost like nearly 50 health. And it's only been a minute or two. So you can see these guys will die rapidly. All right, Callie, go ahead and change it back to night. Just so you can see, so they can see it. Okay, it's 57. Okay, now it went away. Now watch his health. See, now it's going back up because he's got food available. Well, the food in him doesn't matter. He's still got the trough. He's still got the trough there, so he's still feeding. But what we wanted to show you is the moment he was no longer too hot, boom, he's automatically regenerating. He's building his health back up. Now be careful, because just like I shared with you just a bit ago with the example, he might survive one day, okay? Maybe you're in temperature or in temperate, and he survives one day, and you manage to get to night, and he's got like 20 health. Okay, because the day and night cycle on official is so darn fast, there's a good chance you are going to get to the next midday cycle before he gets high enough health again, and he will die. And so you have to prepare for that, okay? And so I actually hope they change the day-night cycle. I hope they make them more like an hour or two per cycle, because currently the way they have it set is way too fast. See, in my mind, if I'm going out playing with a bunch of buddies, okay, and we're out there for a couple hours, that's pretty decent to me for a day, for the daytime. And I expect about the same much for the nighttime. That's why on our server we set it up that it would be 2 hours day, 2 hours night. We figured 4 hours was really good, because if you look at that, break that ratio down, that's 4 hours to 24 hours. That's a 1-to-6 ratio versus real world, okay? And I wish it would also allow us to set the aging to be just the same speed. However, I've noticed that the aging, even though I've changed the day, the aging still goes really, really fast. Callie and I, just not too long ago, were at the Fountain of Youth. and we are right now we're already age 53. So still, the Fountain of Youth the age is still so darn fast. I don't want to run to the Fountain of Youth every 10 days because the characters are aging so fast. And so I'm hoping they fix that also. I hope they really slow it down, because right now if you go to the Fountain of Youth like once every 3 months, that would be awesome. Okay, because anything more than that just seems like it's a constant maintenance. You know what it is? You can take that and you can put it on the side of the scale that I share with you guys in the other videos about when the burden gets greater than the fun of the game, people start leaving. You can put that excessive running to Fountain of Youth on the burden side, because that is constant upkeep that is needed in order to keep your character rolling forward and having fun versus maintenance.
Another note after juvenile is adolescent. Now
Okay.
I don't remember which what the percentage has to be on the maturity, but they do reach adolescent, after juvenile.
Okay. So it went from the baby to the juvenile to the adolescent. Is it full maturity after that? Do you remember?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, so again, guys, I will screenshot this baby at the very end after he gets his 100% imprint at 100% maturity, and I will post it as the thumbnail for the video, and I will put like breeding or something on it, or just leave it and put the breeding in the title. I try to make these as quick as possible. I try to pack them full of information without wasting tons of time editing. All right, and again, guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them down below, and we'll do what we can to get back at you. Again, we apologize for being gone for a while. Again, we were on vacation, and we're back now, so we will see what we can do. I plan to put out at least one other video, some tips and tricks, maybe some things that will help some PvPers out there. So those of you that are out there a lot active, you probably already know some of this stuff, but I'm sure those that are just getting into it, like I'm with a huge org and Star Citizen, and we have several guys coming over to play Atlas with us, and they're getting kind of the crash course. Here's Atlas, taking all this information. I know you're overflowing and flooded, but this is what you're going to need to know to compete out there. All right, y'all, and so this is Otto and Callie, a.k.a. Kyrie, and we will see y'all in the next one.